All right, welcome into Chatterbox Reds. I've got Mike Hart here with Greg Kuffner and Austin Layden here to overreact to everything that happened yesterday in opening day. Greg, how are you doing today?
Doing good. I never really enjoy the Reds not playing on the second day. You get all fired up for opening day, and then all of a sudden there's no game. But at least we got the AAA. We got the bats playing today, which they got some major league guys in there. So at least we got that going for us.
Yeah, I agree. Austin, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. But yeah, same I guess idea. Opening day, it was such a, good day leading up to the game yesterday. It was like 80 degrees out. Not only is there no baseball today, the Reds are coming off a loss, but it's also like 40 degrees and like rainy here in the Cincinnati area. So the dichotomy of 2 days, but glad to at least be talking some baseball in the season at least too.
Yeah, I've heard it described that it's like two wins or two losses with opening day because of the day off. If you win, everybody is riding high for the season, ready in this day off, saying, this is the year. And if you lose, boy, season's over. Let's pack up and go home. Let's start talking about the trade deadline. So I think it does behoove them because I think you said it's raining. So I'm not even sure they would have been able to get a game in today. So we're excited for kids opening day tomorrow. And we'll get to that a little bit today in the program. But first, I want to talk a little bit about one of these new partnerships that Chatterbox has. Chatterbox is proud to partner with Homage, and we have a special deal. Their first 100 listeners get 20% off site-wide. That includes all the great T-shirts, sweatshirts, and everyday gear that you see, including this sweatshirt right here, which I love, nice and soft. And I'm very glad that I get to have this guy. Just note there's a few exceptions, starter jackets, new heights gear, etc. And if any of you have ever had Homage before, you know about how the quality, right? How soft, how durable they all are. Greg, have you gotten a chance? Do you have any Homage gear in your collection?
Yeah, I'm wearing it right now. I got the little kind of old school red shirt. It's like the 3/4 zip shirt. I'm
Oh,
a sucker for the little 3/4 shirt. So this is one of my favorite shirts. Always wear it around the house. And I also have a pair of shorts, red shorts that are like almost sweatpants, but shorts that are just unbelievably comfy. So they
nice.
have my vote. You guys should all get it too.
Yeah. What about you, Austin? You got any Homage laying around?
I do. So, and I used to actually live in Columbus up by the location up there too. So it's yeah, definitely something I've had. I mostly Buckeye gear. I don't have any Reds gear from there currently. I got to definitely step up the wardrobe there. But yeah, 100% like you said. I mean, the quality of the shirt. I got like a long sleeve tee, super cozy, and then a hat. It's a knit hat. It's like the warmest hat that I have for the winter time. So it's good stuff, man. Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Well, Austin, if you need some Reds gear, have I got a deal for you?
Right. Yeah.
If you want those 20% off, you just need to use promo code chatter at checkout. That's CHATTER. Just go to homage.com/cbox and type in chatter as your promo code. That's homage.com/cbox. I like to say that I actually will wear my Reds jersey when I go to Reds games, but I always keep it open so they can see my Homage shirt underneath.
Big
That's how
time,
I,
big time.
yeah, it's big fan, big fan. All right. Well, the Reds decided to make a little bit of a transaction, sneak it under the wire. I don't even know if they necessarily announced it; just kind of showed up on their transaction wire. But they signed a minor league lefty, Andrew Chafin. He, I believe, was this spring was on the Twins. Gave up 2 earned runs in 6 appearances, so nothing too crazy. But like I mentioned, he's a lefty, and last year in 41 appearances with the Nationals and the Angels had a 2.41 ERA. So somebody who obviously he is 35 now, but even as he's getting older, he's still able to get batters out, especially lefties. It looks like lefties batted last year. They batted 136 off of him, and that's a 42 OPS plus, so that's pretty good. So it's obviously somebody that's going to the minors, maybe some relief depth. But Austin, what are your thoughts on this signing that the Reds kind of added in there for this bullpen depth?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere. I was kind of surprised that, he was only with spring training, the team before, and we are kind of able to pick him up out of nowhere. And surprisingly, he's like already at the bats game tonight. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he's like literally got introduced on the field. So he showed up quick, or maybe he was close by. I don't know. But yeah, I think, I mean, to your point, I remember this guy the most when he was with the Cubs, I feel like, back in 2021 time frame or something like that. But I read an article, MLB Trade Room was actually kind of put a blog up about this signing, and I guess his velocity's been dropping a lot lately. Like I think his fastball only kind of topped out in like mid 90s anyway, but I think last year was like an average of like 89 miles an hour. So kind of, not the way you want to be seeing that going, obviously, but still putting up decent numbers. I don't necessarily see this, being much of a factor immediately. Obviously, a minor league deal, kind of low risk, is in AAA now. But if something were to happen to Sam Law, I guess, or something like that, where we need a lefty, he's kind of one of those guys that you could at least call up and has some big league experience, obviously. And yeah, I mean, minor league deal, so it's kind of low risk, high upside type of deal. But overall, it's a good depth piece, I guess, if you're gonna have one.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, I actually saw a quote from him when he was on the Twins that said, I'll read it here. He says, "The way modern free agency is, it makes it very difficult for guys like me. I don't throw 100 mile per hour anymore. I know how to get guys out, and the computer doesn't understand," which is honestly perfect. I mean, it's pretty incredible. I know ERA doesn't tell the whole story, but like he had an ERA under 2.5 in 42 games last year, and he didn't make a big league team. Like, that's pretty crazy if you honestly think about it. But I think he's spot on there. I mean, like Austin just said, he doesn't throw gas anymore. And he throws slow, but like if you get guys out, who cares? But that's the modern day game a little bit, is everybody wants the guys with nasty stuff. But to be able to get him on a minor league deal, I mean, he's a veteran that's been around the league constantly. You said, Mike, how good he is against lefties. Caleb Ferguson's obviously hurt. He did an interview yesterday on the field with Jim Day. He said he got an MRI, I think, on Wednesday. It didn't sound like he was coming back anytime soon. I think he kind of talked about a slow build back. So I think it's just great depth. I mean, the fact that you can get a guy like that on a minor league deal is fantastic, and there's no risk involved. And yeah, I think I was pretty excited when I saw it.
Yeah, it was oblique, right? With Caleb Ferguson, with stuff like that, you just like the way that lingers is you rush back too soon, right? It starts feeling good, and then you ramp up and you tweak it again, and then you're out another couple weeks, maybe even a month. So it makes sense that they're moving slow with that. Sam Wall looked pretty good yesterday in his appearance, mowing through both Roman Anthony and Jarren Duran. So, but yeah, you're right. If anything were to happen to them, the left-handed pitching depth really goes off a cliff. So yeah, you mentioned throws 89, not lighting up the gun, still faster than Brent Suter. So, Reds fans are fine having a crafty lefty who barely throws anything. And to be honest, when you have Connor Phillips, Graham Ashcraft throwing 101 mile an hour cutters, 89 mile an hour, sinkers, can be an advantage. It's just like, yeah, exactly. Huge shade of pace. So he also has a Hall of Fame mustache. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy. This guy has got like he feels like he was built for riding the bus in the minor leagues. Man, he looks
like Kenny Powers to me.
Yes, you're right. Kenny Powers.
I think his nickname is Big Country, I believe I saw. So now you got Big Country and Big Sugar in the minor leagues.
Gosh,
they got it all down there.
That bullpen, I might pay extra to like just hang out and hear what that bullpen's talking about there. But yeah, I agree. I think it's some good minor league depth, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he is contributing to this year's Reds team. It just feels like they're one injury away from having to make room for this guy to come and get some big outs against lefties. So I'm glad this is the type of signing that I'm glad the Reds do, because they seem to understand as much as anyone that pitching depth is so key, especially throughout the long 162 season. But
also missing out on some good Chafin puns, though, aren't we? Chafin.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get
other
to
teams
it.
don't want Chafin, but the Reds are hoping for some good Chafin this year.
I like that. Yeah. I only learned about this signing recently. Otherwise, I'd have done a little homework to try to figure out our best Chafin puns. But yeah, that I'm sure that will come in as we get into the dog days of summer. So let's talk.
Just last thing. Sorry,
Mike, go for it. No, go for
one
it.
just last thing I think is like how deep the Reds like bullpen, even in the minor leagues, is compared to like last year. Like last year and the years before, you're calling guys up like Yasver Zulueta, who they're just in there to get innings. Now we're talking about Kyle Nicholas is in AAA, Chafin's in AAA, Zach Maxwell's in AAA, Luis May's in AAA. So like, if the Reds have a couple injuries, like they're not just going to call somebody up to call them up. They have legitimate options of guys that have been in the big league. So I think, just like you were just talking about, depth has been a massive discussion in the offseason, and I think they've actually succeeded at getting some depth.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But I can only stall for so long. Let's talk about yesterday's game. Unfortunately, they fell the same old. It feels like losing 3-0 to the Boston Red Sox. But before we talk about the sad stuff, I want to talk about some of the positive things. I mean, starting off mostly Andrew Abbott, right? Andrew Abbott, incredible. And somebody that I think, Greg, you were on the record, you were kind of worried. And, I'd be lying to say if I wasn't worried too, based on that spring training. But boy, did he completely prove us wrong. Greg, what did you think about Andrew's performance after the spring training that he had?
Yeah, I was for sure a little bit worried, but then I went back and forth. I said I was worried, but then I was like, I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and throws 6 innings and gives up 2 runs, because it just seems like that's what he does. Like, it feels like when Andrew Abbott gets the ball, he's not going to usually do anything incredible. He's not going to do anything terrible. He's just going to be solid and consistent. And yesterday he was pretty much incredible, and he gave up base runners. It's not like he was, going up there striking everybody out and keeping people off the bases. But when he needed double plays, he got double plays. When he needed big outs, he got big outs. And for the first game of the season, and after how bad he was in spring training, and one of the reasons I was so concerned is, I think I've said this multiple times now, but like, he was the one saying like, oh, I'm going to go get outs now. I'm not going to work on stuff. And then you go get obliterated in this next start. So I'm like, well, if he's saying it, I'm going to be worried too. But yeah, yesterday was fantastic. And I think there's something about Andrew Abbott. Like, all the stats say he's not good. He performs better than he is. And spring training, he has a 12 ERA and he comes out and throws 6 shutout innings. It's just something about the guy. Like, he goes out there and grinds and gets outs. And you just have to love that about him.
Yeah, and I think the Reds needed it obviously yesterday with the kind of lack of offense, and he really kept him in the game, and especially this early in the year, going 6 innings. I mean, that's huge. And to Greg's point, I mean, you talk about a 180 turnaround from what we were seeing in spring training to this year. And spring training stats are so kind of out there anyway for a lot of guys, but it really does show that like you could have literally one of the worst spring trainings and still come in and pick right up game 1 of 162. So I think it's a sign of hopefully good things to come. Obviously, with the pitching injuries that we have in the rotation now, you kind of need Abbott to step up and be that dude. And coming off an all-star season, I mean, I think it's definitely something that he can do. So I'm glad to see him do it, because to Greg's point, there has been a lot of talk of like, this guy's metrics aren't even that good. Like, how does he always come out this good? So the best answer to that is just to consistently perform like you did yesterday, keep them in games, eat up innings where you can. And overall, a great start, I think, by Abbott, especially, not being stretched out yet. And you would hope it only gets better from here.
Yeah, I think we all need to make a mental note next year when we're freaking out about somebody's, maybe even Andrew Abbott's spring training. Be like, hey, remember last year Andrew Abbott had a 12 ERA in spring training and then went out and shoved against the Boston Red Sox. So we need to mentally remember this, because we're gonna freak out again next year, and we need to remember this because there's something about it. There's something different about the adrenaline, about the crowd, about the atmosphere for regular season games, especially opening day. It was really cool to see Andrew Abbott really rise to the occasion there. I just really liked how it was soft contact, right? He understands. He was getting ground balls. Even I think he had 7 hits, but 3 of them were infield hits. So it was like, he was not giving up too loud outs and things like that. It felt like, so that was just what was so impressive. And then he just, like, as he got later into the game, you started seeing a little bit more of the wider repertoire and getting some strikeouts. So you really couldn't ask for much better from Andrew Abbott in a first start, even especially after a spring that he had. And speaking of springs, right? Let's talk a little bit about Graham Ashcraft, right? Graham Ashcraft, also somebody that we're like, is he even going to make the team? Like, what's going on? And he comes out and throwing 101 cutters at the top of the zone. How impressive did you feel like that was there, Austin?
It was very impressive, and they really needed him to do it at that point in the game too, because it kind of felt even, at that point that, if we let the Red Sox kind of get any type of lead, it's going to be hard to come back from, and we kind of ultimately saw that pan out anyway without Ashcraft. But I think Ashcraft's another guy that kind of in the Reds fan base, people can kind of be down on him. They kind of think once you kind of get out of the rotation, went to the bullpen, like how long is this guy going to be on the team? Just like you were saying, so. I think for him to come in and do that, right after a pretty terrible spring trading is, again, I mean, I feel like I'm, broken record here, but it just shows like you can kind of flip that switch. And, once you're, I guess maybe in Cincinnati versus being in Arizona, good things can happen for you, but good to see it out of Ashcraft.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's interesting here, I'm looking at Baseball Savant, and in a game that Aroldis Chapman pitched in, Graham Ashcraft had 5 of the 6 fastest pitches in the game, if that tells you anything. Like, that's pretty awesome. So like, yeah, I mean, Graham Ashcraft, if he can just, velocity aside, like if he can just take that next step out of the bullpen, because we all saw the potential he had as a starter. It'd be ups and downs. In the Reds, I think they have a lot of depth in their bullpen. They don't have many guys that you just feel like are absolute, like, just best relievers in the league, I guess, is where I'm going at. So I think they could use a couple guys that could really step up and like be the guy that every time they come in, you just know they're going to be nails. I mean, I think a lot of us thought about that with Santillan and Beyond last year, but they still have their struggles every now and then. So like, I think as many guys as they can get to step up, and Ashcraft's a big one, is huge. And he's another guy that, like you said, in the spring, he looked terrible, and yesterday he just came out throwing absolute gas. So that was exciting to see for sure.
Yeah, I'd say he still struggled a little bit with command. I think he walked a guy in the process, but I think right now the spot in which Tito used him was perfect for him. Right, maybe he wasn't protecting a lead, but it was just like, hey, we need you to come in here and pitch well. As maybe not the top leverage guys, because I think we've seen Ashcraft struggle at that, right? I think he's gotten a couple save attempts and they haven't gone well. So just, you got to remember, this guy's still young, still younger. Get him where he can, get that, learn how to better manage that adrenaline, and then be able to say, okay, now we can start to hopefully trust him a little bit more. Maybe he reclaims that 7th inning role again that he had last year, leading to Santillan Pagan, and then who knows? Because you mentioned, best reliever in the game stuff wise, I think he could be there with, if he's throwing 101, and then he's also got that slider as well. So I think he could get there if he's able to kind of between the ears get it so that he can manage that adrenaline to just, get people out, no matter where, what inning it is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think just to keep talking about the bullpen, like another guy that I think has the potential, who we saw pitch yesterday, is Connor Phillips. He's a guy that has nasty stuff. It's just control with him. And I know you and I were both talking about it, Mike. Like he gave up soft contact yesterday that just happened to go for hits. But it all started with a walk. So that's where guys like Connor Phillips, or Luis May or Zach Maxwell or Graham Ashcraft, like, walks will get you in trouble. You can afford to give up a couple hits if you don't walk that first guy. And that's the big thing for all those guys. It's just they gotta figure out command, especially if they want Tito to trust them in games with the lead. So, but like we said, it's all. I think all those guys have the potential to be really good.
Yeah.
Especially Phillips building off last year too. I mean, he kind of showed that flash in the pan where, like, this guy could be, that high leverage guy, 7th, 8th type inning dude. And it's tough to see with the walks. Obviously, that'll get you in a pickle. But I think overall, it's with the title of this, is overreactions. I'm not trying to overreact on any of these guys. Though. I still kind of have a lot of confidence, I guess I should say, going into it. But I don't know about you, Mike.
Yeah, I actually came prepared with some visual aids because I saw a little bit about, oh man, this bullpen blew it. And yes, they did give up 3 runs, but I'd like to submit to the evidence to the jury what these pitches that these guys got hits on. So let's start with the Duran hit. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. can still see everyone. Okay, so this is the pitch that Durant, they made it 3-0 that Durant hit, coming from left-handed pitching Brock Burke. Look at this. 95-mile-an-hour sinker running in on his hands, and he hit the ball and drove in a run. So, like, it's not like this is a meatball. That's a really good pitch, right? It ties him up. And then what'd you say, Greg? I think you looked at what's the
yeah, it was like 72 point something mile per hour. So he doinked it. It just fell into a gap.
Yeah. So, can't fault him that much on that. That's just, that's an incredibly difficult pitch to hit, and he did. All right, now let's add this is the Trevor Story pitch that you were talking about, Connor Phillips. Look at this sweeper. I'm sorry for the audio medium, you're not going to be able to hear this on the podcast. I'll describe it to you. This is literally a sweeper dotted on the outside corner that he hit into left field. Right. Yeah, this pitch is like if this pitch would have, I can see how somebody, like, it's literally right on the corner, and he hit it in there. And, at some point you got to just say, you got to tip your cap to the hitters and say, man, they just hit a really good pitch. And then here's the most crazy one. So this is the Rafaela hit off Pierce Johnson that led to the first run. You can't see this on the podcast, but this pitch is literally like a half a strike zone above the strike zone. It's at his eyes, and he hits it into center field for a base hit to drive in a run. So it's just like, you're right when you say, hey, yeah, there were some walks, and we can obviously control that. And Pierce Johnson did give up the double to Marcelo Meyer that put him in that position. But man, you see some of these spots where they're getting these RBI hits, and you just kind of there's not much you can do. You just kind of tip your cap. So it's like, man, that's a good piece of hitting, and we'll try to get him next time. So I guess all that to say, I'm not that worried about the bullpen yet. I don't think that they did anything in this outing to make me really worried. In fact, I think they did what they could, and ultimately 3 runs, right? 3 runs. It should be enough for your team to still win. And I think the issue was the offense and not the pitching. Any thoughts on the bullpen, quote unquote, struggles or things that they gave up?
I think you pretty much nailed it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to
nailed it. Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, the only other guy that I was kind of high on coming in after we signed him was Pierce Johnson, and he was kind of the first one to let the levee break, so to speak, or however you want to say that phrase, the dam break, I guess. But game 1 of 162, like, I think these guys will kind of revert to their averages, and we'll see some better performances. These kind of soft contact stuff, it makes for such a deflating game. Like when you're giving those up, like I was at the stadium, it's just like, one of the worst things to watch, like, in person. I'm sure it wasn't great on TV either, obviously, but like those are the worst. Like, it's one thing to get shelled, but these are just kind of like those bleeder hits that just kind of find a gap. And I think, Greg, you said it before we started. It's kind of baseball being baseball, and it's just sometimes those go, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that, like, I think sometimes certain fans just don't. You can't play the results in baseball all the time. Like, that's a pitch that Connor Phillips throws, and he's probably walks off the field and is mad about the walk, but he's like, I made a great pitch. They just had better execution. I think Emilio Pagan actually talked about that a lot last year. Like, in some of his blown saves, he was pretty honest about it. He said, like, I executed the pitch I wanted to execute, and they hit it. And sometimes when he was good, he would say, I actually didn't pitch that great, but I caught a break. That's baseball. Like, that is just baseball. You can hit a ball 16 mile per hour that bounces out down the third baseline. You didn't have a good at bat. You just got lucky and you're on first base. So, like, that happens in baseball probably more than other sports. You don't shoot a terrible shot in basketball and the ball goes in the hoop. So it's just, baseball is so unique in that way that sometimes you just have games like that where they're going to hit 3 balls that were great pitches and they weren't hit hard and they just fall in. And the Reds will have the same luck at some point this year. And we'll probably be like, oh, the Reds offense was amazing. But in reality, maybe they didn't hit the ball very hard that day either. So that's just the unique thing about the sport of baseball, is sometimes you just have games like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that is also why we are not going to overreact about the offense scoring 0 runs yesterday. It did feel a little, oddly, I feel like I was having deja vu, right? The Reds get amazing starting pitching. They couldn't drive a runner in from third with less than 2 outs, and they get shut out. At least it wasn't 1-0. I was pretty worried actually that it was going to be 1-0 and it was just going to be deja vu all over again. It was the 3 games in a row or whatever that they went 1-0, lost last year. But I know that the Reds did a few things to make changes over the winter with Suarez and then obviously full year of Stewart and Dave Myers and things like that. But are you worried that we're going to have the same old offense as 2025? Let's start with you, Austin.
If knee pain or shoulder pain is slowing you down or your performance on the golf course, the pickleball court, or even in the gym, talk to the care team at QC Kinetics Cincinnati about regenerative medicine options. You can learn more at qckinetics.com or call 513-655-3356. We also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secured, anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.
No, I'm not necessarily worried. Going into the year, I was pretty high on the offense and thinking, all right, we finally have some good pieces. McLean's going to bounce back. We got Suarez. So I'm not going to change that over one game. I mean, it was disappointing to your point of seeing, guys like Suarez come up in kind of clutch situations and not perform, obviously multiple strikeouts, which honestly we knew could be a factor with Gino, obviously the strikeouts. So that's not necessarily shocking or anything like that, but it is disappointing because, yeah, to your point earlier too, how many games last year did we have bases loaded, 1 out, no outs? It was exactly what happened yesterday too, where we can't score the run, or at least a run, that we need in the situation. So I don't know. I mean, I think the highlight, and we can get into more depth on this, but Sal Stewart, I mean, looked pretty great for his not necessarily debut, but opening day debut. So I think that's obviously a bright spot, but I don't know. I'm not gonna change my mind over one game. I think this lineup still has a lot of potential. I know that's not necessarily a strategy, but I do still think that a lot of these guys can do a lot better than they got yesterday. And you're facing Garrett Crochet, right? Like, we didn't touch on that. Like, that's no easy task for really anybody in MLB besides the Reds. The past couple times they faced them, somehow, like, they were scoring like 5 runs, I think, in the last 2 games or something against Crochet, which you knew had to come back to normal. So I don't know. I'm not going to put that much in it. If it continues these next 2 games, talk to me on Sunday, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know I went on the pregame show yesterday with Trace and Nick, and I predicted a Reds win and predicted them to score, I think 4 runs, like 4-2 or something. But if in my heart of hearts, I probably did not think the Reds were going to win that game, and the reason is because of Garrett Crochet. I looked up some stats earlier today. In 25 of his 32 starts last season, Crochet gave up 2 runs or fewer. In 17 of his 32 starts last year, he gave up 1 run or fewer. Like, there's a reason that dude is second in the American League Cy Young voting. A lot of other years he would have won it if it wasn't for Tariq Skubal. So, like, he is just unbelievable. And you just know going into that game, you weren't going to have many chances. I think they had first and second. The 1 inning, Ty Steve flew out at the warning track, and Marte got out. And then, Austin was talking about, you had the bases loaded, and you had Gino and Steer both strike out. We're going to see that with Gino a lot. Gino strikes out a lot. He hits for power, which we all want desperately, but he had here, I think I have it in front of me. Last year, he struck out 196 times. The 4 years before that, 176, 214, 195, 171. I think 3 of those years he led the league. So, like, he's going to strike out. That's just what he is at this point in his career. It's a lot of feast or famine, like home runs or strikeouts. So we're going to see that. Obviously, you wish he would have came through there. He had another chance, obviously, versus Whitlock in the 8th, which was kind of crazy because that was the World Baseball Classic matchup where he got the big hit. But, yeah, I'm not freaking out. I didn't go into the game expecting the Reds to crush Garrett Crochet. I just think he's too good. And then you get to the 8th and 9th inning of Whitlock and Chapman, and those guys are nails too. So it's just very good pitching. Sometimes good pitching beats good hitting sometimes, and I think that's kind of what I chalk yesterday up to. Like Austin said, if it's Sunday and the Reds still haven't scored, maybe I'll change my tone a little bit, but I'm not too concerned over yesterday because, again, Crochet, not many teams are going out there and beating Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, and especially in those tough spots. Obviously, you'd like Suarez to put the ball in the air somewhere, but like that pitch, I don't know. I was watching it live. I was just like the pitch that he like buried a cutter down and in on him that he swung over top of. I was just like, oh, that's such a good pitch. Like it's so hard to put it there, especially when you throw 98, 90, 99, and then you just like dot a cutter on the inside corner. I was just like, maybe he didn't have it at his best because he didn't have 12 strikeouts, but man, yeah, we're facing one of the best pitchers in the world right now, and it's unfortunate because we had our options. We had our spots, and to be honest, I'm not worried because I think I was trying to think about how I can talk about this and explain it and how I think about it in my head. But Suarez's skill set, hitting a lot of home runs and hitting and striking out a bunch, but hitting those home runs, I think can be exemplified or can be taken advantage of by a team like the Reds that are so good at pitching, right? Like this is not going to be the last time that he's going to have a chance to, put the Reds up or do damage. It's not like they're going to be giving up tons of runs and he's going to be hitting a bunch of unconsequential home runs. I think Suarez is going to be up in some big spots in which we'll be able to take advantage of his 30 plus home run, 40 plus home run power. So, you're right. He didn't come up big here, but we've seen examples even this year already in a far more consequential game like the World Baseball Classic final where he did come through. So I wish he would have come through. Boy, would I have jumped out of my seat. Would have Great American Ballpark might have crumbled to the ground if he would have hit a grand slam there. But I understand, and I know that it's a long season, and we're going to face much lesser pitching in this series. So hopefully we'll be able to rebound and this isn't going to be I still don't think it's going to be the same old offense. And the big reason why, frankly, is because of Sal Stewart. You mentioned it, Austin. Sal Stewart, 3 for 4, 3 hits off of, we just finished singing Garrett Crochet's praises, and this rookie comes up and gets 3 hits off of him, including a 109-mile-an-hour double. Like this guy couldn't have been more impressive. Took a line drive off his wrist and was like, "I'm good. I'll stay in the game," and gets a hit the next inning. Like it's pretty hard for Reds fans to look at that and not be just like so excited that they got this dude who's just like this incredible baseball guy. So I guess my question, Greg, is, are we somehow underrating Sal Stewart? Like, I know we're high on him and stuff like that, but like, could we possibly be underrating what this guy could offer to this team this year?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's just unbelievable. Like, I love the dude so much. Like, I joked again with Trace and Nick yesterday. I said, hopefully this dude hits a home run and he does somersaults around the bases in the first inning, because he plays with that kind of energy. Like when he hit that double off Crochet, like he gets fired up and looks back at the dugout and claps with them. And like the first thing he did when he took a 110-mile-per-hour liner off the wrist, he's like, once he found out the trainer said it wasn't broken, he's like, I'm not leaving the game. Like, I'm staying in here. And like, he's the guy. He's honestly that guy that like you feel like if he was on another team, like if he was on the Cardinals or the Brewers, we would like, I can't stand this guy. And he's on the Cubs or he's on the Reds, and you're like, I absolutely love this guy. He's like that guy that you just love to play with. And man, he's just such a pure hitter. Like, it just feels like every time he gets up to the plate, you feel like he's going to give you a good at bat. He's going to hit the ball hard somewhere. And he's also like the guy that he went the other way yesterday. So like he hits it all over the yard. He has power. He'll go the other way. Like he just feels like he's such a great hitter. And I couldn't love the dude more, honestly. And I hope we see a lot more of it this year. But I think this team with him, with Ellie, there's just a lot of guys on this team that could make it a really fun season if they play to their potential, because there are a lot of guys that it almost reminds me a little bit of like the 2023 team with some of the guys you have. And it would just be a lot of fun. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, Sal Stewart, that guy, he's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a good callback to the 2023 kind of young energy that team had. You see a lot of that with Stewart too. And I think the Reds kind of need that guy, right? I mean, not that like, Ellie doesn't bring energy. Obviously, he does, but I think, if you got that kind of young guy that's fired up, getting the team going, I think that goes a long way to kind of, it didn't obviously work yesterday, but get these guys out of a slump, kind of get a momentum inning going, things like that. Obviously staying in the game after taking a liner off the wrist too has got to motivate some guys. Hopefully he's, getting all the work done he can today on it, and into tomorrow he's not sore and ready to go. But I think Tito obviously trusts him a lot, putting him where he is in the lineup between Ellie and Suarez too. I know that kind of surprised people that maybe Suarez wasn't in his spot in terms of the lineup, but I think it could work well. And you're kind of separating two guys that in Ellie and Suarez, like we talked about, get strikeouts. So if you can put a good contact guy in there, kind of keep the inning going when he bats, I think it'll really go a long way. And you hope, I mean, you see some guys come up and they'll be hot for weeks on end, and then the league kind of figures them out. But he kind of had that window last year where you think guys could have at least figured him out a little bit. It wasn't a huge sample size by any means, but I'll take it while we can get it. If if he wants to be the lightning rod at least for this first part of the season, like I'm totally cool with it. I don't know if you guys listen to the Jim Day podcast that he was on, but he's like a very motivated guy too, which I think is cool. Like he's always kind of saying the right things. He's like, I didn't do anything last year. Like I'm here to prove myself. And like, that's the kind of fire that you want to see. And like, I think will lead to success, hopefully, because some guys, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they can come up and they're kind of ho-hum, like I'm in the big leagues, like, oh, no, it's not a contract year or anything like that. But like this guy seems hungry, and the Reds, I mean, they definitely need that for multiple guys to kind of get them over the edge and not back into the playoffs type of thing. So I'm getting way ahead of myself talking about that, but I don't know, Mike. I don't think I'm undervaluing it, but I don't know. We'll see. I like what I see so far, though.
Yeah, I know it's just one game, but it's just we all joke. It's like, oh yeah, he could win the Rookie of the Year, but it's just like, I know he's the type of guy that you mentioned, Greg, just like this. Just so easy to root for your own team. This hard working. He says, "Hey, go learn a new position and go drop 25 pounds." He says, "Yes, sir, I'll go do it." Boom. Here he is. He's, I think, a super under talked about part was just like the fact that we didn't talk about Sal Stewart's defensive first base, because it just like feels like it's pretty normal and natural there. Like for him to just pick up a position like that and be like, okay, this is where you need me to play. I'll play. In fact, one of my favorite quotes that he had, I think when he first came up, is just like, hey, they're asking him, like, where do you think you're going to play? And he's like, my position is the batter's box. I'm here to hit. Yeah, and I was just like, that is a Cincinnati dude right there. A blue collar guy with the chip on his shoulder that you mentioned, just super motivated to be, the best player in baseball. So yeah, I couldn't be, I don't think I am underrating him, just because I think I was already extremely high on him now. And just like, it's like the ceiling on this guy. It's just like, I know it's just one game, but just like if you are hitting and you're, the engine in this lineup of a team that is doing well, that's the type of stuff that gets you all-star bids. That's the type of stuff that gets you MVP consideration, right? Imagine how much more protection he could potentially offer to Ellie De La Cruz, right? You don't want to put Ellie De La Cruz on with a guy like Sal Stewart with gap-to-gap power behind him, right? You walk Ellie De La Cruz and then Sal puts one in the gap. That's a run with Ellie De La Cruz's speed. So, yeah, I think I'm just over the moon with what he's going to be. Obviously, he's going to hit some bumps in the road, but a type of guy like him is somebody who I feel is like going to take it head on and adjust and do what he can. So I'm just super excited that is a guy that gets to be on my team that I get to cheer for.
Yeah, I didn't come prepared like you, Mike, because I'm not as a professional like you. But I did look up for Sal Stewart yesterday. I went back and looked at the pitches that he hit. And the first double he hit was like, it caught a little bit of the plate, but it was still a pretty good pitch by Crochet. The other two pitches that he hit, you go back and look, like they were ridiculous pitches. They were like the pitches we were just looking at that that they hit against Burke and they hit against Phillips. And like he hit a home run in spring training that was like, I thought it was going to hit him in the hands, and he somehow pulled it out of the ballpark. But like that just shows the talent of what he has. Like he's just, when he was coming up, I've watched Sal Stewart since he was like high A with the Dragons, and like I compared him kind of like a Jesse Winker, because he never really hit for a lot of power at first, and then all of a sudden his power came, which was kind of like Winker. Winker was like a bigger guy, but never really hit for a bunch of power, and then all of a sudden he started hitting for power. But now I'm like, forget Jesse Winker, dude. You can go so much higher than Jesse Winker. Maybe I need to settle down too, but man, I just think he has. Every time you watch him play, you become a little bit more and more impressed.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk about kind of our last topic, Garrett Crochet being the reason the offense struggled, he had a success against Garrett Crochet, which is even more, impressive, at least for a 1-game sample size. But yeah, good things to come, hopefully.
Golly, it would be so nice to just like have a lefty masher right there. You know what I mean? Somebody, and I think Matt McLain ultimately will be able to fill this in. I know he went 0 for 3, but still drew a walk. But like to have some guys there that, if we're going to continue to have Friedel and Ellie at the top of the lineup, even against lefties, which I don't love, but I understand that's just, there's nothing I can do to change that. Like having lefty mashers of McLain and then Stewart there, I think will make Reds fandom a little bit happier, because I just think there's a chance that we can not just like get owned by soft throwing lefties throughout the season, or like the lefty opener. But we'll see. In fact, we'll see one a little bit later in this series. We'll talk about that as we move forward. But let's talk a little bit about the game tomorrow, or I guess today, as you are listening to it in the podcast. We have Sonny Gray. Old friend Sonny Gray got traded to the Red Sox from the St. Louis Cardinals in the offseason. He will be starting at Great American Ballpark again versus Brady Singer. I remember Brady Singer was moved up with the Lodolo being put on the IL. So he will be going facing the Red Sox. Nick already talked a little bit about on yesterday's podcast about the splits. They're not awful against Sonny Gray against the Reds. It looks like he's had one outing where he gave up 6 runs. This was in 2024, but his one outing last year, 5 innings, 5 hits, and 1 earned run. So he obviously, still a very good pitcher, even though he's been pitching for a while. What does make me feel a little bit better is just kind of some of these players that are going to be in the lineup and what their career stats are. Ellie De La Cruz, 5 for 11 with 2 doubles, 2 triples, and a home run. I like that. I like that a lot. And then we have Matt McLain, I believe, is 2 for 2 with a double. And then Eugenio Suarez is 7 for 13. That's a 539 or 538 average with 5 RBIs and 2 home runs and a double. So looks like there's some potential here for that Reds offense to bounce back and get some hits here off of even old friend Sonny Gray. I'd love that. So Austin, what are some things that you're expecting tomorrow from that game of Sonny Gray versus Brady Singer?
Yeah, you hope it's that kind of breakout offensive performance that, maybe pent up runs from yesterday. And to your point too, Mike, I was looking at those as well. And even Spencer Steer, 9 at bats, but 2 home runs, 1.6 OPS too. So it's like, there's a potential for these guys to see him pretty well. Sonny Gray, he's not the same guy he was, what was that, 2021 for us? I think his ERA, when I was looking at it, has gone up slightly the past couple years. So it's maybe a guy that you can touch up. Obviously, that's the optimistic Reds fan in me thinking that's going to happen. But I do think, look, it's not going to be an easy task, right? It is Sonny Gray still after all. But I think this is a chance that, that the Reds could kind of get things going. To your point on the lineups, it'll be interesting to see who they put in there and who gets to actually perform against him in the starting lineup. But at least there's some track record of success with a few guys and not, a bunch of offers or anything like that. But what are you feeling, Greg?
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I think you guys pretty much nailed it. But it's like you said, Sonny Gray is definitely not the pitcher that he used to be. He's still a really solid pitcher. If you look at his Savant page, like there's a lot of blue and there's also a lot of red. It's a little odd because he still strikes out a good amount of batters. He still gets a lot of people to chase. But his fastball velocity is like in the 16th percentile in Major League Baseball. Like he's only throwing like 92 these days. So he's not going to blow a fastball by you many times, but he still has success. But I love hearing the numbers that you guys mentioned about how well guys have hit off of him. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to face a righty. It feels like every time the Reds face a lefty, just bad things happen. So maybe it'll get back to normal, and we will be excited about the Reds offense tomorrow. But it is going to be interesting, like you said, Austin, who gets put in the lineup and who, because that is the thing with this team is they have some depth. So there's going to be guys that just aren't automatically penciled in that they would have been automatically penciled in the past. And it's just going to be interesting to see what Tito decides on some of those lineup decisions.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Who do we think that the outfield is going, or I guess how things are going to get shuffled up for facing Sonny Gray tomorrow? Is it going to be the same lineup as opening day, or is there going to be some shuffling in there? What do you guys think? Austin, why don't we start with you?
It's tough to project on like the splits, and you guys probably know the splits, some of these guys a lot better than I do, but especially like we saw on opening day, like the Marte situation, it seemingly they leave him in when you wouldn't leave him in, and then you take him out when you shouldn't take him out. So I don't know. I think we'll probably see something very similar to what we saw on opening day. I think you got to see Dane Myers at some point in this series, but I feel like Marte probably still gets the nod out and right. I'd be shocked if they take Friedel out of center. Left field, I guess, if we're going off of success, maybe you put Steer in there. But like I said, like you don't know if that's going to be the case. And like zooming out, that's kind of the tough thing with Tito. It's like, he's going to make these kind of like, bold decisions, but a lot of them really haven't worked out super well. And then especially if they don't make sense, metrics wise, it's kind of a head scratcher. So I don't know. I really hope that we do get to see Nathaniel Lowe and guys like that in this series sooner rather than later. But split wise, I just don't know if that's going to even matter or kind of what to think at this point. But I think, and it's coming off the off day too. You wonder how Sal Stewart's really feeling and things like that. But if I had to guess, I'd be thinking it's probably more of the same that we saw from yesterday.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with what you said about Tito. Like, you just really I can't read him at all. Like, I don't know what he's going to do. Because to me, Will Benson has to be in the lineup tomorrow. Like, you're facing a right-handed pitcher, Will Benson should be in the lineup. And I would say, sure, if Steer had success off Sonny Gray, cool. But like, it's, to me, Will Benson needs to play against a righty. And I don't really want to take Marte out of the lineup, but I don't know. I think the thing what I get frustrated with sometimes is like, you have guys like Will Benson and Nathaniel Lowe on the bench who have both proven they hit righties very well. So like, if you're not putting them in the game, like, to me, I would love to see somehow they get creative and like Brian Hayes maybe gets an off day tomorrow. And you move guys around in the infield, and Suarez, instead of DHing, plays third base, and then maybe you put Nathaniel Lowe at DH or something like that. But do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. So that's where I get a little frustrated. But again, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it on the second game of the season. But it's just, that's where it's so interesting. I feel like most managers, like David Bell, I knew what he was going to do. He was going to play 100% splits. Tito, I just really don't know. It feels like he plays the splits sometimes, and then sometimes he doesn't. Like, for instance, yesterday, he's talked all preseason about Marte struggling against lefties. He starts him against the lefty and then brings him in a pinch hitter when the righty was in, and then he lets Brian Hayes hit against the righty. So there's just weird decisions that it's kind of like you just don't know what he's going to do. So I have honestly no clue what he's going to do. I would say I would think Benson's going to be in there tomorrow. I would probably say Lowe's not going to be in there based on how they kind of said he's going to be a bench guy, but I don't know. I truly don't know what we'll see.
Yeah, your point about Sal Stewart, I think, is valid, though, right? With the adrenaline and opening day, you can see how, maybe he gets hit there and he's like, I'm fine. And he finishes the game. And then, like, he wakes up this morning and it's like, oh, is a grapefruit on his wrist or something like that. And then with a right-handed pitcher, it might make sense to have somebody like Nathaniel Lowe in if that's the case. I think that's the only way I see Nathaniel Lowe being in there. I agree with you, Greg, about, Benson versus a righty. I think that they're going to play the matchups. And what I mean by that is Benson's 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts against Sonny Gray, and Spencer Steer has 2 home runs. So I think Spencer Steer plays the game, and Benson is on the bench again. So I'm not saying that's necessarily what I would do, but I think that's what's going to happen. Now, where I think that we might get a little bit creative would be on the Sunday game, right? The Sunday where they have a lefty going, Conley Early, I believe is his name, but then they're explicitly like, hey, we're going to do a piggyback situation with a righty afterwards. So it's very interesting to see, will Dave Myers start in that game? I think it is important to remember that their closer, Aroldis Chapman, is left-handed. So I would imagine Dane Myers is probably going to face Aroldis Chapman again at some point in this series, whether it's a pinch hitter or something like that. So I think there's that we need to remember, whether or not we'd like him to be in there. But I think it may be like Sunday where they, against Early, maybe it's Myers in center, Friedel in left, and Steer in right or something like that, and give Marte the day off with the lefty, and then potentially have him for off the bench when Oviedo, their right-handed pitcher, comes in to, for the piggyback. So I guess, Greg, what do you think about that potential platoon for Sunday as well?
Well, I'll say this. If Dane Myers does not start against the lefty on Sunday, I probably lose my mind. I'm probably going to lose my mind. That's my overreaction. We call this the overreaction show, and we haven't been overreacting.
No,
but I will
really
overreact on Sunday if Dane Myers is not in the lineup against the lefty, because that's what you brought him here for. Like, you brought him here because he's good against lefties. He's a better defender than a guy like TJ Friedel. I do think there was something to yesterday. Terry Francona just wanted to get like the main guys in there. Hey, you earned an opening day start. And I get that. Like, I probably wouldn't do it that way. You think every game matters. We saw that last year, but like, I do understand it's opening day. It's not a normal game. Sellout crowd. It's the huge thing in Cincinnati. Like, guys will get in their feelings if they're not in the lineup on opening day. But if Dane Myers isn't starting on Sunday, I'm going to throw my hands up and be like, what are we even doing? Why did we trade for this guy if we're not going to play him against lefties? So I'll leave it at that. But I do think we'll see him. I do think we'll see him on Sunday.
It also wouldn't shock me either, too. I mean, we talked about it last year with with guys like Will Benson. They have him on his roster and they never use him. So could Dane Myers be the Will Benson who's still also kind of Will Benson from last year too? So I don't know. I sound like a broken record again, but nothing would shock me. But I mean, at some point, you think he's got to at least play the odds, so to speak. But we'll see.
Yeah, it will be interesting. This is where I'm at with the platoons. I'm with you, Greg. I was frustrated yesterday. I've just decided this is like the mindset that I'm choosing to have about these. Are the platoons going to make sense to me? No, they're not going to. And yeah. I'm going to choose not to let that ruin my watching experience, because yes, do I think it would help? Absolutely. But there are plenty of instances where maybe if you haven't played the platoons and the person that maybe wouldn't be in there still can come through. So it's not like it's a binary. Oh yes, we should pinch hit this guy here and he will get a hit. And if we hadn't pinch hit for him, he will not get a hit. Like it's never. I think a lot of people start to think of it like that, right? It's just like it should be Dane Myers here. He would have absolutely driven in that run.
Yeah, you play the results, right?
Right, exactly. And so because of that, that's what I'm choosing to do as I'm getting older and more mature to watching it. Do I disagree with it? Yeah. But like, I'm just like, well,
you're a better man than me, Mike.
Over the 162, I think that, while I don't agree with a lot of some of the specifics of the platoons that Tito does, I really do like how he chooses to use the bullpen. I think he does a pretty good job, especially last year. I mean, minus Ian Gibaut on opening day last year, but like, I think that he does a pretty good job managing the team. And I think he brings a lot just to the energy and the of the bullpen, or I mean, of just like the team in the clubhouse. So I think there's a lot that he does bring. I really do wish he had a little bit of like David Bell rubbed off on him a little bit, and he'll platoon some more, and maybe he will start doing that as the season goes on. But I understand that the platoons are what the numbers say you should do, but I'm choosing to, just be optimistic that even if Noelvi Marte is in there against a lefty, he still has a shot to get a hit. And even if TJ Friedel is leading off the game against a lefty, he still has a chance to get a hit, to lay down a nice little push bunt and maybe get an infield single. So I think that's where I land with it. It's just like we can I think people know now how we feel about it, and it's not going to change anything. So I'm doing my best to just, roll with the Tito this year, and hopefully we'll have a more exciting season despite some of the platoons that we wish we would have had.
And it's not completely uncommon for guys to get like reverse splits, and then 1 year, and then the next year that they have the straight splits too. So that stuff can be inconsistent. So yeah, it's hard for me to get too up in arms from if a guy's hitting 270 versus 250, one way or the other, really what that difference is. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Well, a perfect example of that, honestly, you're spot on, Austin. A perfect example of that is back in the David Belt days. Everybody always got mad when he moved TJ Friedel down against lefties because his splits were reversed back in the day. And now his splits against lefties are terrible. So that's a perfect example of things change year to year, and sometimes there's some fluky stuff, and you never really know. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I feel like the sample size on a lot of these guys is big enough now.
Yeah.
But at least, we'll see. The thing is, it's going to work itself out over the season. People are going to get hurt. And then there's going to be people like right now, it feels like we have too many people for not enough spots, right? It's just like, who do you bench in certain situations? Like, it's easy to say, oh, bench Marte, bench Steer, but those are people that have contributed a lot to this team as well in the past. So it's not as clear cut as I think it would be in other situations. And as the season goes on, I'm sure there may be spots where it's a very clear platoon that even Tito chooses to take advantage of. So we've gone plenty about I think all the internet is fully aware of where Chatterbox sits on the Reds platoon situations. But I did want to, before we head out, I wanted to highlight Reds MILB. The Louisville Bats, they kicked off their season today. It is currently the bottom of the seventh. Louisville is winning 2-0. We have Hector Rodriguez is 2 for 3 with an RBI. Edwin Arroyo had a double. Reese Hines also has an RBI and a hit as well. So the lineup of Hector Rodriguez, Reese Hines, JJ Bleday, Carlos Encarnacion Strand, that's about it. And then Michael Toglia after him. That I think, Greg, you were mentioning to me beforehand, that's about as much power as the AAA team that you've ever seen. So that team has some potential for hitting a lot of home runs.
Yeah, and Chase Petty, 4 2/3, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs. So I'm excited to watch Chase Petty this year. He needs a bounce back. He needs a bounce back after his struggles last year in the majors and in the minors. He looked good in the prospect game. Excited to see him. I think the biggest thing with him is like it feels like he's kind of lost his strikeout pitch and didn't have a lot of swing and miss. But 8 strikeouts and 4 2/3, that's off to a good start. But yeah, the lineup, like you talked about, that lineup, I saw them put it out before the game, and I was like, this is a ridiculous AAA lineup. I remember it made me think of the lineup when the Reds had McClain, CES, and Ellie all down in AAA, and it was like must-watch TV because every night those
Marte
dudes were
as well, yeah.
Votto rehabbing too.
Ridiculous thing. Yeah. So and that's fun. It gives you something to pay attention to in the minor leagues. So that'll be fun to keep track of Louisville, because there's been some years where you look down at Louisville and there's just a bunch of guys down there that they're not even prospects. It's just like, hey, they're just getting at bats down there. I'm trying to think of who it was who hit 1 million home runs for the Reds in AAA a year or two ago, and it was like he's never getting called up because he's just like a 34-year-old veteran that's down there just to fill a spot. I think Henry Ramos was down there at one point, like tearing the cover off the ball. But yeah, I think Louisville will be exciting this year for sure, and I was pumped to see Chase Petty's line.
Yeah, you don't think Garrett Hampson's getting the call if he's hitting 300 in AAA?
I don't think so, but he had a big double tonight. I
think he had as many hits tonight as he did in all of spring training. So good for him. I'm glad that he's able to, get off the schneid there. All right.
And Kevin Newman and Brandon Drury are on the Storm Chasers.
Wow.
Who the Bats are facing tonight. So there's a couple throwbacks.
Is that Kansas City? Is that their AAA team?
I don't know whose AAA team it is. I know it's Omaha.
Yeah. No.
Let's see. Yeah, Kansas City Royals. You nailed it.
Kansas City. All right. Well, Austin, Greg, thank you guys so much for joining me. We went, I think we did a really good job of not overreacting as much as we wanted to. I appreciate your guys' level takes and your thoughts on all kinds of things along the Reds. But yeah, like I mentioned, tomorrow's game, Nick and Trace will be live in the 9th again, hopefully celebrating the first win of the season. If you're listening to this on a podcast, please give this a 5-star rating. It really helps us with the podcast, especially early in the season, getting in front of new listeners who might be Reds fans who want to pick this up. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're on your phone, hit the hype button. That's a new one in there that I think somehow does help the algorithm. So go ahead and do that as well. And subscribing to Chatterbox Sports, you'll get content about FC Cincinnati, obviously the Bengals, even Chatterbox Bearcats, and their new head coach that they just hired into. So lots of great content for you out there on Chatterbox Sports. I guess without right as we get to the hour mark, we can we'll sign off here and say goodbye. So once again, for everybody here, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we'll sign off with one more Go Reds.